Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and this is SideQuest, a cloud gaming topical discussion show where I take a deep dive into one topic. On this week's show, we're talking about what PC games should come to Google Stadia, and Chris is just trying to distract me because he is, of course, my co-host today.
I did a deep dive. You said a deep dive, so I held my breath and I dove in. Dived in.
He did indeed. Before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, sub to the channel, hit the bell icon for when all our great shows go live on YouTube, such as the Sound Stadia podcast every single Monday, which you can also get on podcast services like you can this very show, and our Thursday night live streams, where if you haven't already, go check out my first playthrough of Dawn of the Monsters. So Chris, the background to this episode is actually, well, it's something we've talked about quite a number of times about bringing up. Stadia should use the fact that it is mouse and keyboard compatible natively, so open it up to more PC style games. And with the recent Dev Summit, they're about to talk, or may have already talked, depending on the timing of this episode going out, about potential Windows emulation, so native Windows games can play on Stadia. And also the release of City Skylines, which I think falls directly into that kind of PC-centered gameplay. So we wanted to talk a bit more about what games we like to see, or what game franchises do we think could find a new home in Google Stadia.
Yeah, well, like you said, the news this last week, if you remember, you've watched this early, you caught this on the Sunday, so you're currently awaiting the Developer Summit happening. If you're catching this on free feeds on YouTube and podcast service on the Friday, it happened last Tuesday, and we'll actually know all about these Windows emulated games, quote unquote, from all of the news articles that covered it this past week. But Richie, we've been clambering for more PC-centric games for years now. On Stadia. It's such a good platform for utilising mouse and keyboard, but more importantly, those who don't have top-end PCs capable of running some of these high-intense simulation games, just do it in the cloud, but on more devices. And we've said Stadia always comes with that caveat of it needs to have controller compatibility. If they would just scrap that, it would open the door up to so much more. And maybe this Windows emulation and the introduction of City Skylines coming imminently, it does just that. So, yeah, where do you want to start? What franchises do you want to pull out the bag and talk about?
For the rules we're going to set, I think, for this show is, one, we're going to ignore the fact that Stadia currently requires developers to have controller compatibility. That's out the window for this. So any game that is currently available on PC that can play with mouse and keyboard is in. We're going to obviously ignore Microsoft-owned studios, because I think, we could go, oh yes, bring Age of Empires, but in all likelihood, it ain't happening. But other than that, it could be a new game, old game, a dormant series, a rebooted series, whatever takes your fancy.
Okay, so I'd like to start where I've been touting for many, many moons now. If you follow me over on Twitter at CyberChris2077, every few months I tweet at Frontier Development about their games and why they would be ideal on this platform. And the reason is a lot of their titles, they do have a console edition. So I'm talking Jurassic World Evolution 1 and 2. I'm talking Planet Coaster, which is the kind of spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon. And I'm talking Planet Zoo, which is, if you don't have Microsoft on your team, it's the equivalent of Zoo Tycoon. So 3/4 great titles that have console counterparts. So they already tick that Stadia approval box. Bring them across. They'd be fantastic for not only mouse and keyboard, but the ability to play them on a controller across multiple devices. And I do feel like they fit that niche of a PC game that it runs really well. Like the games are currently available on last gen tech as well, so it's not like it needs to be cutting edge simulation. But I just think the variety is great. I love a good park simulator.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked many times about how much we both loved Roller Coaster Tycoon, and for this list, we're not saying like there can't be like a console version of it. Like, well, we're literally I opened up by talking about City Skylines, but it's the kind of games we're looking at, the ones that most people would objectively say this game plays better on PC. Not in terms of graphics, but just in terms of how you interface with the game. Which, when I was researching for this episode, one of the things I came up with, I was reading a lot of like top 10, top 20, top 30 lists for PC games. And I think we've hit the point where the gaming industry is kind of homogenized between PC and console quite a bit.
Yeah, certainly.
So you might find there's a very narrow band of genres in this list. But the one I want to talk about is, let's just get one of the biggies out the way, The Sims. It's probably the biggie, I think. I mean, it was the first one I put on the list because I think it hits the casual market that Stadia seemed a bit more focused on. It does kind of come with that AAA tag. It's EA. We know there's a relationship there, whether it's dormant or what, but they have brought games over. And I do think I think there has been console ports of The Sims. It's very much works better as mouse and keyboard. And I just don't think for Stadia there's a bad reason to have The Sims over on the platform. And to be fair, I've played Sims games in them before and they run like garbage. So using the power of the cloud, so if people can play them on crappy laptops, it's a win for me.
Yeah, we've said a few times before on both our shows that The Sims would be ideal. And I think the fact that it would utilise on mobile, because The Sims is one of those games that, again, casual, I feel like people play every now and again. They'll build a house, they'll design themselves, their friends, their girlfriends, their partners.
Open the console, motherlode.
Yeah, and then as soon as the real life kicks in, like you have to get a job, pay bills, it's like, okay, it loses its allure a little bit. Yeah. But if you go onto the Play Store, the iOS store right now, and just search for Sims, there's like a Sims mobile game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, if I go the right way, it's
like...
audio
listeners, Chris has held up his phone to show us.
Yeah, it's like The Sims Lite, so it does a lot of the same stuff, but I feel like it's missing...
We don't want the light version. We want the full fat version, like the full game, just through the cloud.
Yeah, like it does a lot of the same stuff, but at a lesser extent. So I'm hoping this version would kind of alleviate that, and it does have a console edition. I think Sims 4 is available on all consoles, so yeah, again, it would be a great relationship builder with EA. It builds that library. We've said a few times that we believe EA Play will come to the cloud, to Stadia in some form in the coming years, so it would all build into that whole catalogue.
If this came over, okay, you can just buy the game if you want, or EA Plays there. Like you can have Ubisoft. With Ubisoft Plus, you have a choice. That'd be great. And the thing is, The Sims pretty much invented the concept of just keep bringing out DLC.
Yeah.
The Sims was doing DLC before it was even DL. It was just CD-based extra content.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I think off the back of The Sims and feeding in with City Skylines, SimCity, that's still going, as far as I'm aware. I don't know when the last one was.
I think it's been a while, but I think SimCity needs to be brought back. It's a good franchise.
It is, and again, it's exactly the same almost as City Skylines. 2014, was it, the last one?
2013, 2014, and it did not do well in terms of ratings. But there's a good game to be had there.
Yeah,
you just didn't do it well last time.
Yeah, and City Skylines evidently had surpassed it, and that's why it's in its 7th year now, celebrating success and coming to other platforms like Stadia, which has kickstarted this whole conversation. So, yeah, bundle Sims and SimCity and some kind of EA Play access. Give us a reboot, do something with that, and I think it'd look great.
For SimCity, I think we'd wait for a new version rather than just bring up the current game.
And back to my point that I was saying before about kind of my process was ones that are already on console make the best port because they're already for the controller counterpart. Tropico, if you've ever played a Tropico game, I think Tropico 6 was the last iteration.
I've never played one.
Oh, they're so fun. It's basically the same concept of you start on a tropical island, but it comes in with a political infrastructure of you are El Presidente, and you can either go good or bad. So you can either lean more towards the West and make deals with America to trade, or you can lean more towards the right and trade with
straight up dictator. Here we go.
Yeah, and literally, if you the game will end if you lose at the elections, but you can also rig the elections by assassinating your counterpart. You can rig the polls. You can pay the media off to do stuff. So there's lots of kind of like little intricate things that mean everything isn't ran so well. If you have like a shantytown area of the city, you can just bulldoze the shit out of that thing and put a hotel there if you feel like it would benefit your economy more, regardless of all the poor people who get evicted from their homes.
If you don't serve an eviction notice in advance, then you'll end up murdering them, and that way you don't have to deal with them because they're dead.
Yeah, exactly. And there's loads of stuff like farming, and you can sell drugs illegally, or you can go through legal means as such. But it's still, it's very much a world simulator, looking after a city, maintaining its economy and agriculture and stuff, but with that twist on it. And Tropico 6, I think, was the last iteration. So it's a game that I played for hours and hours on end as a child on PC. It then later on got console counterparts, and make the perfect switch across. Love to see Tropico. Yeah,
I mean, talking to like kind of like the city like building stuff, we've also got stuff like from Ubisoft. Like I know. I was about to say I know, but it's like I know. I've never played an Anno game, but I have been interested. That I do like them 4X strategy games. These massive. I'm just going to build my civilization, like something like Civilization, who, at quick glance, apparently everyone's had a go at publishing. Micropose, Activision, Hasbro Interactive, Infro Games, and 2K have all published Civilization games.
Like to mix it up.
Yep, so the last one was 2016, so they're probably due for a new one as well, actually. But I think these are games where I don't... They're turn-based, so I think they can work with a controller. But again, if we just drop out the need for a controller, you could get the ported straight across, and you could deal with the controller later as a patch. And again, things like we've seen with Humankind, direct touch can be an alternative way to play these games. I think it works quite well, assuming you've got a big enough screen. But more games like that, I do think, could find another home. And again, this comes back. These are sort of games I think a lot of people do kind of enjoy. But if you can't afford a decent PC, there's a lot of processing power that needed to play these games. Then the cloud is a good place for them. I think it can find it's the sort of games that can find a new lease of life in the cloud, where people have played them in the past, enjoyed them, but I only have an iPad nowadays. I don't have a laptop, even have a laptop anymore. Well, you could just use your iPad. You could, or something like that. That's the sort of game I'm kind of leaning towards.
Yeah, a one that with all these games we've probably not mentioned, but touch input. Stadia's used touch input recently with games like 100 Days, and we've seen it implement them with some more kind of click and point adventure games. A lot of these titles would play really, really well with touch input as an option. So if you were playing this game on a tablet, on the move, or an iPad, having that touch input similar to Roller Coaster Tycoon on mobile, actually, that whole pinch and zoom tap to...
I brought up Humankind as an example. Like as long as you got a big enough screen, it works. One of the problems that I had with Humankind was the UI scaling was pretty poor on your phone. Because again, I think it just scaled down directly rather than adapting to the size of the thing, which means that your icons are tiny.
Yeah, I found that with 100 Days as the cross to close notifications. I was just opening more. I was opening more, just trying to tap it.
It's one of the things that could be a bit smarter, but it's not game breaking.
Yeah, exactly not. So that could be a great thing, and I think having these PC games accessible on multiple devices is the key crux of why they would benefit this platform and the games themselves. Yeah. A title that, off the back of relationships that hopefully are pre-existing, we've got EA, we've mentioned The Sims already. I'd like to throw Command & Conquer in the ring. Franchise that I've got a massive affinity for over the years. It just had a remaster of the original game that came out in 2020.
Yep.
Why not? EA exists, wants to get these games out to as many people.
Everyone likes a real-time strategy game.
Love
definitely.
A bit.
Always going to be better mouse and keyboard. You can move so much quicker with a mouse and keyboard in real-time strategy than you can with a controller.
Oh yes, you certainly can.
Much more precise.
And again,
it's almost as if it's a genre that was designed for mouse input.
Yeah, and it's included in EA Play. So back to our conversation with The Sims about just having this kind of cloud library accessible through a separate subscription potentially, or buy them outright. That's the great thing about Stadia.
Just buy EA.
Not buy EA outright.
I mean, it's
them
not
outright.
Considering some of the deals we've seen recently. It's not that weird to see someone buy EA, but.
It wouldn't. And then hopefully we get more of these. I do want to throw a question out to the chat, though, and probably to you as well, Richie. Command and Conquer, I for the first 10 years of this franchise and playing it time and time again and owning the physical box and expansion packs, I called it Command and Conqueror for so long. So long for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did. I probably did at some point because actually... I was never a big fan of Command and Conquer. I don't think I actually owned the game myself. I was more of an Age of Empires 2 purist back in the day. So my touchstone to Command and Conquer is probably you.
Probably. But yeah, I don't know. Just let me know in the chat if anyone out there called it Command and Conqueror. I know it's grammatically it doesn't make any sense, but...
It might be a Mandela effect moment. Where you believe that at some point, but it's just like you getting it mixed up.
Yeah, you read the box and go, oh yeah. And again, Command and Conquer makes sense for what you're doing. But I was just like, oh, you're a conqueror and you're commanding an army, but...
I mean, while we're on strategy games, the Total War franchise, there's a huge range of Total War games, everything from Rome to like Warhammer.
Sega as well, who... have a very odd relationship with Stadia right now. We've got Judgment. We had Football Manager.
I have Football Manager on the list. The return to that could be good, but Total War games again. I think these are really fun games as strategy games, and strategy games are just better with a mouse and keyboard. So these are the sort of games that Stadia could really take advantage of.
I hope they do, because it would just open the door. If you look at these games we've listed, it's bringing a whole flux of genre in that is missing right now. Yeah. And having them on Steam and PC is great because it's the only place you can currently play them. Opening that up to so many more devices. And Richie, we've theorised time and time again, if Stadia came out with a Stadia-specific mouse and keyboard, like direct to the cloud setup, even just a mini keyboard and a mini mouse that was white, a wasabi mouse.
Yeah.
How cool would that be? It was like for minimal latency, it just goes
Wi-Fi
direct to the cloud. Yeah. If you want a Chromecast with it, like just think, if the mouse and keyboard linked to a Chromecast, you could play it on your TV with your Stadia mouse and keyboard.
They've got to experiment with it. They've got to have done. I think we've talked about this before, but I think with Stadia, just move away from this idea where everything has to be playable everywhere. Make your platform so this is a platform that can be accessed everywhere. But not all games are made the same. Not every game is going to work equally well with a controller and mouse and keyboard, or direct touch, or potentially even motion controls. Check out Sounds of Stadia podcast for that one. So why try to force it and you're cutting out? Like, I honestly think the only reason Settlers isn't coming and Anno isn't on Stadia right now is because of the controller. Ubisoft don't want to put the time in to basically put like controller support into a game that's not designed for us.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that because we've said it before. Ubisoft want their entire library in the cloud. It's just they want it accessible to everyone, and they want to make Ubisoft Plus as a standalone proposition look as financially valuable as ever before. And they do that by getting their entire catalogue on there. Every single game Ubisoft ever put out, you want it, you can play it for one subscription in the cloud or through multitude of different channels. We know it's coming to Xbox later this year, probably in turn Game Pass xCloud in some form. We've got it on Luna, we've got it on Stadia. Ubisoft are all in on cloud gaming. So yes, stop limiting them by just a little caveat that has to have mouse and keyboard. Take out that caveat, put in an asterisk and say, not playable without mouse and keyboard. Done. If you buy it, you don't want it, return
There's lots of ways you can put in your storefront what the compatibility is. My one I would go with is just little icons on over the top of like the box art. So if it's got controller, it's compatible with controller. If it's got like someone touching a phone, like a little icon, it's compatible with direct touch. If it's got mouse and keyboard, it's mouse and keyboard. So you can look at a glance in the storefront, just purely when you're looking at the box art, what it's going to be on. And if you're like, well, I don't care about mouse and keyboard, and it's got games that only got mouse and keyboard there, it's not for you. And it's fine. You
Or-
give them the customer the information to make the purchasing decision.
Completely. Or do some kind of configuration with your layout and have a section for PC only.
Oh, they need to do that, aren't they? They need to do that.
Because
anyway.
let's face it, the interface has needed a refresh for some time now.
There needs to be, for me though, there has to be something on the store page which is very obvious that jumps out at you immediately, which is why I was thinking on the box art, to show so whoever's buying something knows straight away what they're buying and what it's compatible with, if you are splitting the compatibility about. This is the thing with most consoles. Yeah, a PlayStation 5 game is going to be compatible with DualSense.
Mm-hmm.
But Stadia isn't most consoles. The kind that feels like they're holding back what could be a unique selling point.
Certainly could be. For me, moving on, I think I just want to bundle all these games together. Any simulator game you can imagine. I know there's been a lot of hype for Goat Simulator in the past. There's been a lot of hype, I think, currently for Lawnmower Simulator. There's the Pressure Washer Simulator where you clean things. So satisfying. And there's such a big ask for those games. They do well because they get annual iterations. And we know Farming Simulator runs great on the platform. So just, open it out to anyone who's making a simulator game. Obviously, barring Flight Simulator, because that belongs to a certain studio. But Euro Truck Simulator, Train Simulator, insert word, add simulator.
Expand the same thought to Tycoon games, things like Zoo Tycoon, can't even say that then. Theme Hospital, Game Dev Tycoon, all these sort of like indie style games that have like kind of have the roots in things like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Theme Hospital, and Theme Park. These sort of games that have looked to them for inspiring. Go, oh, how can I Job Simulator was that a VR one from the Rick and Morty?
Yeah, Job Simulator's on there. Yeah.
If you bring VR, there you go. These kind of stuff, I think they tend to be smaller titles, but really really fun.
Yeah. You won't get Zoo Tycoon though, because that is Microsoft.
Yeah, okay. That was as an example.
You will get Planet Zoo, made by Frontier, who made Zoo Tycoon. So same devs, different IP.
Yeah.
Same game in essence.
One I want to bring up is we have Baldur's Gate 3 when that finally actually finishes getting released.
Yeah. Event one day, 2035, it will
and
be
there
done.
is enhanced editions of Baldur's Gate 1, 2, Icewind Dale, all these classic RPGs. Bring them. Like it would be great to have the full series. Planescape Torment, Baldur's Gate 1, 2, Icewind Dale, all these kind of top-down isometric strategy RPGs. They are so fun to play. They've got a big place in people's hearts, and it brings them to a new audience. They look a bit dated, but they're the sort of games that, although they look dated, they still play well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of titles. There's quite a lot that were probably missing that are like huge in the world right now. What's the?
I mean, you could put like the MOBAs in there, League of Legends.
I was going to say Lost Ark's obviously doing really well right now. Published by Amazon, not made by Amazon. I've noticed a lot of people getting caught out with that, thinking this is the second stellar hit from Amazon Studios. It's like no, they're publishing it in the West. They're not. They didn't make it.
Yeah.
But obviously, no discredit to them. They've obviously picked a great one out. But the games that always do great. I think Counter-Strike's always up there still somehow. Like old game, but I mean, they bring it.
I mean, Counter-Strike's Valve, so I've kind of steered away from Valve titles.
Oh yeah, true. Valheim.
Am I right? Is Counter-Strike Valve?
I have no idea. But yeah, things like Valheim. I know we think Skylines is going to be a great one for Stadia when it comes. Valve. Currently in there. But yeah, there's just loads of games. Dota 2 as well.
Because I mean, when I was looking at it, I was thinking even things like Portal, but again, Valve was like, it's like like the likelihood of a Valve title coming to Stadia, I think is very slim, especially with the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think in fact the Steam Deck makes it even less likely. You got the going back to like Baldur's Gate, you got things that have inspired by it, like the Divinity series, Original Sin 2, good game.
Well, you know what? If you look at the top Steam charts by current players, and we go up from the top 25, Risk of Rain 2 is in there, 24, which is already on Stadia. DayZ, we know we're getting DayZ Aftermath. by winter. Now, don't know about you, Richie, but winter ends when the clocks go forward for me, which is in 2 weeks.
I'd say winter's over. December,
Wow.
January, February for me would be winter.
Well, again, who knows with seasonal stuff. Euro Truck Simulator, told you, simulator games. Ark Survival Evolved, that's on Stadia. Rainbow Six Siege, that's on Stadia. Dead by Daylight, that's on Stadia. Probably not getting Rocket League, I think it's Epic now. Hearts of Iron, you mentioned. That's in there.
We've got a friend who plays lots of Hearts of Iron. He's a big fan of it.
Football Simulator 2022. Who knows what's happening with Football Simulator and Stadia. Of course, GTA 5, just on the cusp of having its next-gen launch, which it's rumoured to come to Stadia.
Yeah.
Will we see it? Who knows? And then Destiny 2, PUBG. So you know what? As far as top-played games, Stadia does have a big chunk of these. And imagine if it could open it up to all of these Windows-emulated PC mouse and keyboard games. Be great.
Yeah, I think looking at the list that we've kind of went through, there's a strong bias towards strategy of various kinds and simulator games of various kinds.
Yep.
Because I think these are games that people have probably played, or especially a lot of these, they've kind of like, people have played, our age have played a lot of these style of games when we were younger, really enjoyed, but then we've moved on with life, and if the casual gamer is like, imagine if you threw something like Planet Coaster as a Stadia Pro game, and you got someone there who loved Roller Coaster Tycoon.
But doesn't have a PC anymore.
Doesn't have a PC anymore. Maybe they've got an iPad, maybe not. But or maybe they have a PC. Maybe they've got like a Chromebook for work, and it's just like something simple. It's not powerful enough to game on, but cloud gaming changes that.
Yeah,
that was part of one of the selling points all the way back at GDC 2019. Sorry. Where you can play on anything, so you can take a cheap and nasty Chromebook and play AAA titles.
Yeah, they really just need to push into every genre possible to make the library look so diverse. And again, I just love a Stadia-specific mouse and keyboard. I think it would work so well for just PC players. Yeah,
there's genres Stadia can hit that PlayStation and Xbox cannot. Just because of, well, maybe Xbox can a bit nowadays, but PlayStation, Nintendo, there's certain genres that they can't hit very well without developers having to go in and make a console variant of the game.
Yeah.
Stadia can remove that requirement. And again, I think is the perfect example because it's Ubisoft. Everything we know about Ubisoft and Stadia is Ubisoft want every game they can on Stadia. So there's a reason why Anno's not there. Remove the restriction, we get another massive game, one that's up there with like kinds of Civilization in terms of respect, and it just brings these sort of games to a new audience.
It does, and you're missing out as well because the Settlers reboot, which has been delayed indefinitely, but like that's another game that you probably would have if it wasn't for the mouse and keyboard restrictions. So
100%, it's Ubisoft.
So.
Football Manager is a weird one where I think they tried with Stadia. I don't think they probably got sold enough copies, and Microsoft came by. I was like, okay, understandable.
Yeah, we'll have it over there. But let us know in the comments, everyone, if there's any particular game series that you would love to see ported, either through this brand new magical Windows emulation that was talked about on Tuesday at the Dev Summit, or just something that you think, you know what, I used to love playing that on PC, and I haven't got to it for whatever reason in a while. Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear some ideas and well wishes.
Yeah, but that's all we have time for this week. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Consider becoming a member for as little as 99p, where you can get this show under early access as early as like 6-7 days. Depends. It's Friday. You might have this by the time you wake up tomorrow on Saturday morning. Depends if I decide to edit it tonight. If you've got an idea for a topic you want us to discuss, let us know in the comments, or you can join our Discord server. The link is in the description. And don't forget, SideQuest does release as a podcast, so if you listen to Sounds of Stadia podcast and audio, you can do that with SideQuest as well. With that, thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I've been Chris.
We've been Helix Cloud Games. Quest completed.